The table went quiet, but I kept chewing. That's the thing about silence, it doesn't just happen. It lands. It stays. Fills the air like smoke. And everyone at that table knew the match that lit it. Derek sat across from me, one arm slung over the back of his chair like he owned the damn house. "You don't actually decide anything," he'd said, offhand. Like a joke, but not quite. A little smirk at the edge of his mouth. His thumb still flicking through his phone. I didn't look at Kate. I didn't look at him. I didn't say a word. I just nodded. I smiled. And I went back to chewing the pork chop I'd grilled an hour earlier, wondering how something cooked with care could taste so bitter now. Later that night, the dishes were done. The house settled into its usual evening rhythm. TV humming in the other room. Kate answering emails from the couch. Derek yelling at some video game upstairs. But me? I was sitting at the kitchen table, logged into my banking app. I didn't do it fast. I didn't do it with anger. I did it slowly, methodically, like disarming a bomb. Tuition canceled. Car insurance removed. Phone plan done. Netflix, gym, food delivery, autopay all gone. Spotify family plan? That name meant something different now. And I wasn't in the family they were talking about. By midnight, I had unspooled myself from every financial thread I had ever tied to that boy. He just didn't know it yet. My name is Jonathan. I'm 45 years old. I manage a construction supply yard outside Columbus, Ohio. I've got 2 bad knees, a back that reminds me of every roof I ever fell off in my 20s, and a heart that, until very recently, still believed effort meant something. Kate and I have been married for 12 years. I met her in line at the DMV of all places. She had Derek with her. He was 6, sullen, wearing a too big hoodie and hugging a plastic dinosaur like it was some secret weapon. Kate had that tired beauty that single mothers carry like a badge. Eyes that had seen too much disappointment to believe in good luck anymore. I asked her out 3 weeks later. We moved in together 8 months after that. By the time Derek turned 9, I was the one driving him to school, the one fixing his lunch when Kate had early shifts, the one explaining fractions over the kitchen counter with a pencil behind my ear and 2 mugs of cold coffee nearby. I didn't push him to call me Dad. I never even asked. That word belonged to another man, one who showed up once or twice a year with too late apologies and the kind of gifts that looked good on Instagram. Alex was a classic. Charisma and chaos. The kind of guy who'd post pictures of Derek and write "my boy" in the caption, then forget to call for 6 months. He made just enough effort to stay in the narrative, never enough to actually write any of it. And me? I was the background character, the filler, the reliable presence that got cropped out of the family photos because I was the one taking them. Still, I showed up. That was my whole identity for a long time. I was the man who showed up. Baseball practices, school projects, sprained ankles, parent-teacher nights. I didn't miss a damn one. And I thought naively that showing up was enough. That love, built in small, consistent actions, would eventually earn me a place at that table. But that night, across the mashed potatoes and the dim yellow kitchen light, my stepson looked me in the face and said, "You don't actually decide anything." And it hit me. He meant it. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a slip. It was true not in the objective sense, but in the way that mattered. In his world, I didn't matter. I was an accessory to his life, a financial support beam with no voice. And Kate, she didn't say a word. She just froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Didn't scold him. Didn't defend me. She just let it hang there, like it belonged. I cleaned my plate, took my dish to the sink, said good night, with a smile that felt like it was stapled to my face. I heard Derek laugh from the living room when I walked upstairs. You don't actually decide anything. I sat in bed that night and thought about all the ways I had tried to build something. About the time I spent 3 days putting together his first bike and how he had asked if real dads knew how to fix chains faster. About the way he used to ask me if I'd be home in time to watch cartoons, and then, a few years later, stopped asking entirely. When I proposed to Kate, I asked Derek first. I sat him down, nervously, sweating like I was applying for a job I wasn't qualified for. I said, "What do you think about me being part of your family forever?" He looked at me and said, "Okay, and then asked if we could get pizza. I thought that was enough, that I had his blessing. But kids grow up. They start measuring you against myths, against fathers who aren't there to make mistakes. And you become the man who says no, the man who pays, the man who doesn't get a birthday card but gets the privilege of footing the bill for theirs. You become a ghost in your own house. I kept everything quiet. Didn't tell Kate that night. Didn't tell Derek. I just sat in the dark, listening to the soft hum of a house I paid for, realizing for the first time that I had become irrelevant in it. When Derek turned 12, he needed a tie for a school dance. He stood in front of the mirror, fidgeting with it for 20 minutes. Eventually, he came into my room and said, "Can you help?" He didn't say please. He didn't say thanks. But that night, when he got in the car to go, I saw him adjust the knot and look at himself in the reflection. And smile. That memory used to mean something to me. Now, it just hurts. Because I taught that boy how to tie a tie, how to change a tire, how to shake a man's hand, how to stand up for himself without swinging first. I taught him all the things a father's supposed to teach. And I did it all while being called Jonathan, like I was the weird neighbor just passing through. I paid for his braces, paid for his summer camps, paid for every single thing his real dad forgot to cover. When he wanted to join travel hockey, I pulled money from our savings and told Kate I'd get overtime at the yard. We cut corners so he could fly to out-of-state tournaments and wear a jersey with someone else's last name. And still, he sat there at that table and told me I didn't decide anything. Maybe he's right. Maybe I don't. But he forgot the part where decisions aren't always made out loud. That night I made one. And it wasn't about punishment. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. If I don't have a place in this family, I won't pretend to. If I'm not a father, I won't fund the illusion of being one. If my opinion doesn't matter, neither will my money. Simple. I thought about the crayon card he gave us when we got married. 3 stick figures. "Welcome to the family," scrawled in shaky second-grade handwriting. I used to keep that card in my wallet right behind my driver's license. It's not there anymore. You don't actually decide anything. No, Derek. Not anymore. And you're about to feel what that really means. I didn't yell. There's something quieter than rage. More surgical. More final. When you stop fighting to be heard and simply act, that's when people notice. Took less than 30 minutes to vanish. I sat at the kitchen counter with a cup of black coffee, lit only by the blue glow of my laptop. The cursor blinked like a ticking clock. First, the university portal. Derek's next tuition installment. Unpaid. I clicked the red X beside my name. Then driving school. His sessions were on my card, billed monthly. Removed. Insurance? Gone. Cell phone plan? Reassigned. Gym membership? Cancelled. Even the streaming accounts, Hulu, Netflix, Spotify, all gone with a few taps. He'd wake up to nothing. A digital ghost town. A life built on my sacrifice, now without power. By sunrise, he still slept. By noon, the notifications began. Kate got the first ping. She was folding laundry when her phone buzzed. "Your recent payment has failed. Please update your billing info." She looked confused. "Is this yours?" she asked, holding out the screen. I didn't look up. "Nope." She blinked. "It's Derek's college. Says the payment bounced." I said nothing. Later that day, Derek called down from his room. "The driving school says my lessons are paused. Can you call them?" I sipped my coffee. He came down 5 minutes later, phone in hand. "Also, my insurance app isn't working. Keeps saying there's no active policy." I looked him dead in the eye. "Because there isn't." Confusion. Then attitude. "Okay. So what's the problem?" "No problem," I said. "Just not paying anymore." Kate turned from the sink, drying her hands. "Jonathan, what are you talking about?" I stood up slowly, walked to the table, laid my phone down flat and pulled out a folded paper. One I had printed that morning. A list of all the recurring charges tied to my bank accounts. I pointed to each one. "This is everything I've paid for over the last year. Car, school, gym, food, phone, insurance, travel, everything. And all of it? Mine. They stared at the page like it was written in a foreign language. I looked at Derek. You said I don't decide anything, so I stopped deciding to pay for your life. He laughed, nervously. Wait, seriously? You're canceling everything because of that? Kate's mouth opened. You're punishing a teenager for saying something stupid. That's not fair. No, I said. I'm respecting his opinion. He said I'm not part of the decision-making, so I removed myself from the equation entirely. Jesus, Jonathan, Kate snapped. He was just mouthing off. That's what kids do. I turned to her, calm. Kids mouth off. Adults face consequences. He's 17. Old enough to drive, to vote soon. Old enough to say what he thinks, and old enough to own it. Derek scoffed. Wow, you're really doing this over a joke? It wasn't a joke, I said. It was the truth. Your truth. That I'm not part of this family in any meaningful way. Not a real dad. Not someone whose opinion matters. Kate took a step toward me. He was angry. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. Caring isn't the issue, I said. He can care. But caring doesn't pay for college. Respect does. Partnership does. Being treated like a human being does. I turned back to Derek. You wanted your life funded without giving anything back. That ends now. You've got another parent. Let him step in. Silence. Just the sound of the fridge humming behind us. Derek's face darkened. You know he won't, he muttered. He never does. I nodded. Then maybe you should have thought of that before you spit in the face of the man who did. His jaw clenched. He looked at Kate, searching for backup. She didn't speak. Because she knew. She knew how many nights I stayed up balancing bills, finding side jobs, pouring hours into a future that wasn't mine by blood, but was mine by effort. She knew how often I stepped aside when Alex, the ghost of a father, would reappear just long enough to take credit for something I paid for. Derek's hockey stick? Thanks, Dad. He'd text Alex. The tournament fee? That was me. Quietly paid while the other man got the applause. She knew, and she let it happen. You're being cruel, she said again, softer this time. He's just a kid. Kids lash out. No, I said. He's not a kid anymore. Not when he's applying to universities, driving his own car, demanding independence. You can't ask to be treated like a man and act like a child. I pointed to the table again. This list isn't punishment. It's clarity. I paid because I thought I was family. Turns out I'm just the guy paying. Derek muttered. This is messed up. I cut him off. You made a statement. I believed you. I acted on it. He tried again. You're not even going to talk about it? Just pull everything? I looked at him calm, unshaking. Why would I talk about something with someone who told me my voice doesn't matter? He looked stunned, like he hadn't expected to be taken seriously. Kate turned, ran a hand through her hair. So what happens now? I shrugged. He figures it out, calls his dad, gets a job. Or not. It's his call. She whispered, You're stepping away from everything? I'm stepping out of a role I was never given. He said I'm not a decision maker? Fine. Then I'm not a provider either. No one moved. No one breathed. I left the kitchen. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of our bed, hands resting on my knees, and waited to feel something. Guilt, relief, anger. Instead, I felt clean. Not vindicated. Not proud. Just done. The truth is, I had been sliding toward this decision for years. Every ignored favor. Every time Derek asked for money and forgot to say thanks. Every time Kate made excuses instead of holding him accountable. Every holiday where I watched him text his father, "Love you," and then barely look at me. They stacked like bricks, one by one, until the wall was too tall to climb. All Derek did was place the final stone. You don't actually decide anything. And maybe he was right. But now I had decided everything. And for the first time in years, the silence in this house wasn't painful. It was peace. The email came on a Wednesday. Subject line, urgent. Disciplinary hearing request, Derek M. It was from the school. Kate read it first. Her hands were shaking by the time she handed me the phone. "They want both parents present," she said. "There's been an incident." I nodded, took the phone, scrolled through the message slowly. He'd been caught. Not drugs, not theft, something more cowardly. A bullying report. A student claimed Derek had shared doctored images. Fake, humiliating, personal. The kind of thing that doesn't just embarrass you. The kind that stains your life in permanent ink. They wanted to meet. They wanted all guardians involved. I opened the reply window and typed, "Please contact his father, Alex M. He is responsible for all matters moving forward." Click. Send. Kate stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You're not going?" she asked. "No. But this is serious." "So is respect," I said. "And that wasn't serious enough for either of you two until now." She raised her voice. "Jonathan, this is his future. He needs you." I stood. He made it very clear I'm not part of his present. So why would I be part of his consequences? Kate tried again. "He's still a boy. You're the adult. You're supposed to be better." I looked her in the eye. I was better. For years. I worked 2 jobs so that boy could have braces and a summer trip to D.C. I gave him a life his real dad wouldn't even pretend to provide. And what did I get? Disrespect. Dismissal. Silence. Now it's my turn. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. So I walked out, got in my truck, went to work, sat behind my desk and stared at the walls, waiting for the phone to ring again. Didn't. Not that day. But the next it did. Caller ID Derek. I let it ring twice before I picked up. Said nothing. Just waited. His voice was small, quiet. "Can you come?" That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just a question. A request, not a demand. And something about that, it broke through. Because it was the first time in years that he wasn't expecting me. He was asking. I drove to the school. Parked in the far lot. Walked slowly. No rush in my step. No heat in my chest. Just quiet resolve. At the front desk they asked for my name. I gave it. They nodded like I belonged there. But I didn't. Not anymore. The room was sterile, 2 chairs on one side, 3 on the other. A long table. A tissue box no one touched. Derek sat with his shoulders curled inward, like he wanted to vanish inside himself. Next to him a seat was empty. Meant for Alex, I assumed. He didn't show. I walked in and took the chair beside Derek. He didn't look at me, but he moved, just slightly, leaned half an inch in my direction. I noticed. The dean introduced the issue. A female student had been targeted. Her photo edited. Shared. It had gone viral through the school within hours. Derek's name was tied to the source. The evidence was strong. The consequences. Possibly expulsion. I didn't speak. I let it play out. Let them all talk. Then they turned to Derek. He stared at the table. Swallowed. Spoke. He didn't deny it. He admitted it, not as a boast, but as a confession. He said he was angry. Said the girl had embarrassed him in a group chat. Said he thought it would be funny. He used the word regret. He used the word coward. And his voice cracked. That's when I placed my hand on the table. Not touching his, just close enough that he could if he wanted to. He didn't. But he saw it. When the dean mentioned restorative actions, I finally spoke. Calm. Measured. How many times does someone have to be humiliated before we stop calling it a joke? I asked. How many kids have to break down before we start using real words? Harassment? Cruelty? Trauma? They all looked at me. And for the first time in that room, I wasn't stepfather. I was a man speaking with authority. The dean nodded. Took notes. The counselor looked at Derek and asked him to write an apology. Not just a letter, but a statement to be read in front of the student body. He agreed. I drove him home in silence. He didn't speak until we were parked in the driveway. I didn't know what to do, he said, barely above a whisper. I didn't think you'd come. I almost didn't, I said. He looked away. I was scared. I didn't respond. I opened my door, stepped out, let the wind and the gravel say what I couldn't. He followed. That night, I found a note on my pillow, folded once. Plain paper. Same handwriting I'd seen years ago in crayon, back when he drew stick figures and called me family. You're not my dad on paper, but you're the only one who's ever acted like one. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I sat on the bed, held the note, read it twice, folded it again, placed it beside that old crayon card, tucked deep in my dresser drawer. A drawer I hadn't opened in years. And then I closed it, because this wasn't the end of anything. It was the start of something different. Not forgiveness, not repair, but recognition. Sometimes love isn't about giving more. It's about giving less, until the people around you finally feel what it means when you're not there. They don't hear the quiet until it's theirs. They didn't ask me to pay again. Not directly, but I could feel it. In the way Kate lingered around me in the mornings, making small talk about Derek's classes, his part-time job, how hard he was trying. In the way she folded his name into conversations like seasoning, soft and careful, hoping I'd bite. I didn't. A week passed. Then too. The bills stopped coming to me. So did the text messages. Derek no longer asked for rides or favors or a quick 20 for gas. He just moved quietly, came home late, ate alone. And in some strange way, he'd finally begun to carry his own weight. Not because he wanted to, because he had no choice. I had stopped carrying him, and the absence of my support became its own kind of teacher. No lectures, no threats, just a sudden, gaping void where comfort used to be. I think that's when he started to understand. The day he left that note, "You're not my dad on paper," but something shifted. He didn't say those words to my face, but I didn't need him to. Writing it cost him something, and I felt that. It wasn't a transaction. It was a crack in the wall he'd spent years building. Still, I didn't respond. I let the silence do the work, because sometimes love isn't holding the line, it's stepping away from it, letting them walk through the storm they called down. Kate didn't say much after that either. She watched me more. That kind of quiet appraisal you get when someone realizes you've changed in a way they didn't see coming. Not louder, not crueler, just resolved. She asked once, quietly, "Are you ever going to forgive him?" I said, "Forgiveness isn't the issue." "Then what is?" "Respect." She didn't press after that. There were nights when we ate in silence. Nights when I could feel Derek upstairs, pacing. Nights when Kate went to bed early, hoping to avoid the wait between us. The house had grown quieter than I ever thought possible. Not peaceful, not hostile, just stripped of illusion. And in that quiet, I finally heard myself think. 12 years. 12 years of carrying a family that wasn't mine by blood but was mine by effort. I paid for every season of their lives, the uniforms, the field trips, the birthday parties, the school photos, the dentist bills. I paid with my time, my hours, my spine. And what I got in return was a smirk across mashed potatoes and a sentence that unraveled it all. "You don't actually decide anything." No anger, no yelling, just fact, from his mouth to my ears. But now he understood what decision really looked like. Not loud, not violent, just final. He'd started working at a local coffee shop, minimum wage, long shifts, rude customers. I didn't ask. He didn't volunteer. But I noticed how his shoulders slumped more when he came in at night. How his hands smelled faintly of bleach and milk. How the calluses had started forming on his palms. Good. Let him feel it. Let him live in the same world I'd lived in since I was 17, where nothing is handed to you, and the only thing people respect is what you build with your own hands. One evening, I passed by his room and saw him at his desk, headphones off, no music. Just textbooks and a spiral notebook. He didn't see me. For a second, I remembered another image, him at 9, trying to build a Lego tower too tall for its base, asking me why it kept falling over. "It's unstable," I told him. "You need a foundation before height." He didn't understand then. Maybe he does now. Kate found me in the garage that night, organizing tools I hadn't touched in months. She stood in the doorway a long time before speaking. You think you made your point? I looked at her. It wasn't a point. It was a boundary. He's just a kid, she said. No, I replied. He's almost a man, and he needed to learn the difference between having a father and having a bank account. She flinched at that. Good. Maybe she needed to, because this wasn't just about Derek. It was about her silence. Her way of watching him chip away at me year after year, and saying nothing, always choosing peace over principle. You can only ignore erosion for so long before the ground gives out beneath you. She whispered, "He really does regret it." "I know," I said. "Then why are you still so cold?" I set down the wrench I was holding, looked her square in the eyes. "Because regret isn't the same as respect, and I'm not starving for scraps anymore." She left without another word. The next morning, I found Derek in the kitchen before work. First time in weeks we'd been in the same room at the same time. He looked at me, then at the floor. Then he said, quietly, "I'm trying." I nodded. "Good." He waited, maybe for praise, maybe for something softer. I didn't give it. Some truths don't come with applause. He left for work without another word. And I sat at the table, drinking coffee I made myself, thinking about everything I'd poured into this house. You can give a man your whole life, your labor, your love, your loyalty, and he'll still call you nothing if the culture around him tells him blood matters more than presence. But presence is everything, and absence teaches faster than affection ever will. Derek had to feel the emptiness, not as punishment, but as proof. He used to think love was guaranteed, that the bills would be paid, the tank would be full, the fridge would be stocked. No matter how many times he dismissed me, ignored me, called me by my first name while texting Dad, to someone who only shows up when it's convenient. Now he's seen what happens when love steps back and says, "You've made your choice, now live with it." I don't hate him, I just stopped saving him. Because nothing grows in a house where only one person is doing the building. And when a child draws a line between love and loyalty, the parent on the other side has a right to stop crossing it. So now I ask you, was I wrong? Was it cruelty to withdraw from a boy who only saw me as useful when it benefited him? Was it cold to let him taste the absence he swore I already lived in? Or was it the only way left to make him understand that being a father isn't a title? It's a toll? One I've paid in full. With interest. Your turn.